Ladies and gentlemen, please join me for the benediction.
CDC guidelines for people who are exposed to COVID say that you should wear a high-quality mask anytime you are around others inside your home or indoors in public. The president, of course, did wear that mask in the Medal of Honor ceremony, but then took it off and didn't put it back on. Was that a mistake?
So look, I'm going to share a couple of things with all of you here, and just start with what the ceremony was all about because it's incredibly important. The president took off his mask, as I said he would, to deliver incredibly powerful remarks about this captain, Captain Taylor, and what he did in service to our nation, and he wanted to honor the captain. And for a brief time afterwards, he also didn't have his mask on, as you just laid out, and he left as planned, as it was planned. He left when there was a pause in the program in order to minimize his close contact with attendees who are about to participate in a reception. And as you all reported that and noticed that he left when there was a pause in the program because, again, he wanted to minimize certainly his impact on folks who were there. And so, look, we have to take this all into context. I think it's important that we do this. We are in a different phase, right? As we have said many times with COVID, this is kind of going on the third year of coming out of this pandemic. We believe we're in a very strong position to continue to fight COVID. And this is not new. People know what it's like to have COVID, know what it's like during this time. I think what's the most important is the president tested negative a couple of hours before this event. He tested negative yesterday. As I just mentioned, he tested negative on Monday. He tested negative today. He has no symptoms. And I think it's important to also look at the context as well. And for a brief moment afterwards, yes, he did have his mask was not on. And then when the program paused for a moment, he stepped out.
But he didn't put it back on. Is he out of practice? Is he like so many Americans?
Look, what I can say is we got to put this all in context. Afterwards, we planned for the president to leave when there was a pause in the program so that it would minimize him being in the room. He did just that. And I also would want to add is before the event started, the president spent a good amount of time with the captain, Captain Taylor, and his family, and everybody was masked because he wanted to spend that quality, important time hearing from this hero, hearing his stories, and really thanking him one-on-one, and also with his family around him. And so the president, in every way that we could yesterday, followed the CDC guidelines. And again, he had his mask off briefly, and then when there was a pause, he walked out.
Just very quickly, should those guidelines still be the same? They're a year old now.
That
Do you
is
stand by those
that is
guidelines?
not for me to speak to. It truly isn't. This is something that CDC decides on. They are the experts. They are the ones who certainly provide the guidelines. It is not for me to speak to.
Captain Taylor, he was masked, you could have that time with him. Then why not wear a mask when he was putting the medal around his neck and he was so close to him like that? Was that an oversight by the president?
What I can tell you is that the president took off his mask to deliver incredibly powerful remarks about the captain. That was done certainly on purpose, right? Wanting to give him that Medal of Honor, and it's important. It was important to him to speak to the heroics of the captain, and that's what you saw. And afterwards, obviously, he didn't have his mask on, but afterwards, as it was planned, we made sure that when the program was paused, that he was able to leave right after. We wanted to make sure there was a short amount of time that the president was there. And so that's what you saw. And look, the CDC guidelines, as you know, is masking, is testing, and is certainly having close monitoring any symptoms. The president doesn't have any symptoms. He tested negative a couple hours before the event. He tested negative today. I think what's really important is that the president, to put this all into context, that the president doesn't have any symptoms and he's been testing negative.
You've emphasized the pause and that he got out of the room to minimize that. But yesterday you had said that he would remove his mask when sufficiently distanced from others indoors. That was not very sufficiently distanced when he was next to Taylor yesterday. So going forward, if he is that close to people over the next couple of days as he goes to these meetings at the G20, should we expect to see him masked if he is engaging with world leaders like that?
So the president's going to be masking in this 10-day period. He's going to be masking. He's going to be making sure that he is getting tested regularly, in consultation with, certainly in consultation with his physician, and so we will keep those CDC guidelines. Again, he wanted to make sure he had those really important remarks to share about the heroics and what Captain Taylor did on behalf of his country. So yes, he took off his mask. But what we made sure to happen is that there was a brief pause. When there was a pause in the program, the president left. So to minimize his impact or his impact towards the attendees who were there. And so that was done on purpose. That was done very purposefully, so that again, he wasn't there for too long. Again, before, and the reason why I mentioned the before piece, because the president saw this to be so important that he did take some time with the captain and his family, and everyone was masked, and wanted to make sure that he did his part as well and was being protective of the family and the captain.